Bolivia is falling apart. Look at this line to a gas station. People have been standing in this line for 3 days. They sleep in their cars to keep their place. Truckers wait a week just to fill a tank, and that's because there's no gas left, which doesn't make any sense. This is a country that until a few years ago had so much fuel it was selling it to half the continent and making a ton of money. Somehow that has now changed. But it gets worse. The shops are thinning out. The price of bread changes between the morning and the afternoon. And if you've got dollars in the bank won't give them to you. This is a major crisis, and it shouldn't be happening, as Bolivia sits on one of the single biggest fortunes on the planet. But for reasons I will soon show you, it can't touch a cent of it. So what's going on here? How does a country go bankrupt and run out of fuel while it's sitting on a fortune? Well, to understand the fall of Bolivia, you have to first understand the climb, because Bolivia did not start rich, it became rich and lost it all on multiple occasions. See, for most of its history, this was one of the poorest countries in South America. This is mostly due to its geography, seeing as it's landlocked, which history tells us significantly hurts a country's economic prospects. So for basically its entire existence, it survived by doing one thing: digging stuff out of the ground and selling it. First it was silver. Then it was tin, and in the 2000s that one resource became natural gas. Bolivia was sitting on a massive amount of it, right at the exact moment its giant neighbors were desperate to buy. The only problem was that the gas was being extracted by foreign companies, and Bolivia only had a share of around 18%. So in 2006, a new president named Evo Morales looked at all that gas flowing out of the country and decided Bolivia wasn't getting enough of the money. So he sent in the army. But before I show you what happened next, you might remember that in some of my other videos I've said that I am Danish. But a while back, I wanted to be 100% sure, so I partnered with MyHeritage to take a DNA test. They sent the box in the mail with a kit inside. I put a cotton swab in my mouth for about a minute, dropped it into a vial and sent it straight back. A few weeks later, the results landed in my inbox, and this is the first thing you see. The globe spins and it lights up every part of the world your DNA traces back to, broken down across 42 ethnicities and more than 2,000 geographic regions. As expected, I am mostly Danish, but then there's some Swedish, Dutch. I did know about the German part, but there's also these smaller pieces from Eastern Europe, England and Norway that I genuinely did not expect. Then it gets stranger. Under DNA matches, it shows you real living people who took the test and share your DNA. Distant cousins you've never met, scattered across countries you've never even been to. And then there's ancient origins, which traces your DNA thousands of years back to the ancient populations and migrations you actually came from. One thing worth saying here, MyHeritage never sells or licenses your genetic data. It's written into their policy, which matters a lot for something this personal. So if you're curious about your own story, they're running a promotion right now where you can get your kit for just $25. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen and use code OPF25 to get yours for just $25. Alright, back to the video. On May 1st, 2006, soldiers showed up at the gas fields and Morales told the foreign companies the deal had changed. Overnight, the share of the gas money going to the Bolivian state jumped from around 18% to 82%. And the money, it just poured in. Over the boom years, gas pushed something like $50 billion through the Bolivian government. For a country this small, that is an ocean of cash. Now, let's look at what they spent that money on. And this is the fun part. They handed out cash payments, one for every kid who stayed in school, a pension for the elderly, a bonus for new mothers, and by the end of the decade, almost the entire population was getting some kind of money from the state. They built those cable cars over La Paz, the economy quadrupled, and Bolivia, this poor landlocked country, was running budget surpluses almost every single year, something it hadn't pulled off since 1970. People's lives genuinely got better. But here's the thing about a miracle that's built on a single resource you're digging out of the ground. It's a countdown. Because all of it, the cash, the cable cars, the pride, the savings, all of it was balanced on top one thing: gas. And somehow nobody was checking how much was actually left. If you're pulling a fortune out of the ground, the responsible thing to do is take some of that fortune and spend it drilling for the next one. Bolivia didn't do that. During the entire boom, the state basically stopped drilling new exploration wells, and you can kind of see why. Drilling for new gas is expensive, and it's a gamble. Handing that cash to voters instead is popular and instant, which is exactly what they did. Production peaked in 2014, then it started to fall. The fields that built the whole miracle were running dry, and there was nothing behind them. At one point, Bolivia drew up a plan to drill 20 new exploration wells. They drilled 3. All 3 came up dry. And while Bolivia's gas was running out, its customers were finding their own gas. Argentina was sitting on Vaca Muerta, one of the biggest shale deposits on Earth, and Brazil struck huge reserves off its own coast. So they suddenly did not need Bolivia anymore. Some of those pipelines now run in reverse. In April 2022, for the first time in 30 years, Bolivia spent more money importing fuel than it earned selling gas. I think you get the picture. So I need you to now look at this number, 6.96. That's how many Bolivianos, Bolivia's currency, it officially costs to buy $1. For over a decade, the government made its people a promise. $1 will always cost the same, a fixed rate. And while the gas money was flowing, that promise was easy to keep. But a fixed exchange rate is a very expensive promise to keep. See, when your own currency is quietly losing value, but the government swears it's still worth 6.96, then everybody rushes to trade their Bolivianos for dollars at that bargain price. And every time they do, the central bank has to hand over real dollars to keep that promise alive. This drained the savings really quickly. The usable cash reserves went from billions to hundreds of millions to tens of millions. By the end of 2024, Bolivia had around $47 million in liquid reserves. Let me put that in perspective. For a country of 20 million people, that is roughly 2 days of imports. And because there were no dollars, they couldn't buy fuel from abroad. So the fuel ran out. For years, Bolivia had kept fuel artificially cheap with subsidies, which people loved, obviously, and which was quietly ruining the country. At its worst, that subsidy was costing the state around $10 million a day. Money it did not have. Now, a normal country would have fixed this years ago. You just devalue your currency. You admit the currency is worth less, you let the price float. It hurts like hell for a while, but it stops the bleeding. Bolivia refused to do it. And to keep refusing, the central bank started doing things that I honestly didn't believe when I first read them. Let me show you. Okay, so when a central bank runs out of dollars, but it still has to act like it has dollars, it really only has 3 options. Sell what's left, take what belongs to other people, or print. Bolivia did all 3. Start with the gold. The central bank still had tons of actual gold, the country's last real savings. So the government quietly passed a law letting it sell that gold without asking Congress, and letting it buy up cheap local gold to flip for cash. Bloomberg dug into this and found the bank ran billions of dollars through this gold trade, buying up questionable, poorly documented gold and selling it on for the foreign currency it so badly needed. And here's the detail that really gets me. At one point, they were selling gold they did not even have yet, promising to deliver it months down the line. While this is incredibly bad, it's quite sneaky, and you can do it for the most part without your population realizing. But this other move can't be hidden for very long, because it hits the population directly. See, the commercial banks, the regular ones where people keep their money, they held dollars too. Customer deposits kept in reserve, and the central bank wanted those dollars. So it made the banks an offer. Hand over your dollar reserves and here, take these Bolivianos in exchange. It's a loan, we'll sort it out. The banks expected to get their dollars back, they didn't. By one account, the central bank swallowed several billion dollars of the banking system's hard currency this way, which by the way is why if you were just a regular Bolivian with dollars in your account, you suddenly couldn't get them out. And if you wanted to send dollars abroad, the fees climbed past 60%, and that famous fixed rate, the 6.96 the government still had printed on the wall, it became a complete fiction, because by 2025 there were effectively 3 different exchange rates in Bolivia at the same time. There was the official rate that almost nobody could actually get dollars at, there was a second, higher rate the central bank quietly started admitting to, and then there was the real one, the street rate, the black market, where at the worst of it, you were paying nearly 20 Bolivianos for a single dollar. Almost 3 times the official price. And the third option is printing. And yeah, they did that too. Money flooded into circulation, the crisis the gas money had been hiding for a decade started eating the currency itself. So just take a step back for a moment and look at this country. No dollars, selling their gold, selling gold it doesn't even have, seizing its own bank's money, printing currency, lying about its own exchange rate, all of it to survive 1 more month. And this entire time there's a fortune sitting in the desert that could fix all of it, which we can finally get into. Because why didn't they just go dig up the lithium, which is the material they have in their underground? Let me show you. This is the Salar de Uyuni. 10,000 square kilometers of pure white salt, the largest salt flat on the planet. And dissolved in the water underneath it is a staggering amount of lithium, the metal in every phone, every laptop, every electric car being built right now. Basically the most fought over resource of this century. And Bolivia has an absurd amount of it. It sits in what people call the lithium triangle, 3 countries that hold most of the world's known lithium between them. And Bolivia's share is enormous. Somewhere around 20% of all the lithium reserves on Earth are sitting inside this country. The future of the entire car industry just sitting right here. So how much lithium did Bolivia export in 2025? $19.6 million worth. That's it. Why? 3 reasons. And the first one is just basic chemistry. Bolivia's lithium is trapped in a brine that's absolutely loaded with magnesium, and separating lithium from magnesium is hard and expensive. Basically, the more magnesium, the worse the deal. So here's a comparison to show you what's going on. In Argentina's best deposits, the ratio of magnesium to lithium is around 1:1. Easy to work with. In Chile, around 6:1. Still workable. In Bolivia, roughly 19:1. The second reason was a choice. Bolivia nationalized its lithium the same way it did with gas. The state would do it alone, they said, but with no foreigners taking the prize. A proud decision, but also a total disaster, because Bolivia didn't have the technology or the know-how to crack its own difficult brine. The flagship state lithium plant opened years late and produces a trickle of what it promised. And the third reason is that the deals that could have fixed reason 2 fell apart. Bolivia eventually went to Chinese and Russian companies, signed billions in agreements to finally tap the salt flat, but local communities living right there took it to court, saying nobody ever asked them, eventually leading to the contracts getting suspended. So the fortune just sits there. But while the lithium sleeps, the people definitely do not. Because by late 2025, this slow motion economic collapse was about to turn into a political earthquake. For almost 20 years, one movement ran Bolivia: Evo Morales and his party. The guy who nationalized the gas, built the miracle, and handed out the cash. By 2025, that movement was tearing itself apart from the inside out. The old leader and his former protege locked in a bitter war over who was in charge, while the country ran out of fuel around them. So in August 2025, Bolivia voted. And the party that had defined an entire generation got 3% of the votes. A total wipeout. So in November 2025, a new president takes over, a centrist named Rodrigo Paz. And he promises to do the thing none of his predecessors would: tell the truth about the economy. So within weeks, he declares a national emergency and does the single most dangerous thing a Bolivian politician can do. He cuts the fuel subsidy. And overnight, petrol prices nearly doubled. Diesel jumped even more. The cheap fuel that had been a promise for decades, gone. Now, on a spreadsheet, this was the right call. Objectively, this subsidy was bankrupting the country. But to a worker who could barely afford the bus as it was, it felt like a declaration of war. So the Bolivians went to the streets, and by the spring of 2026, Bolivia was in open revolt. Miners setting off dynamite outside the presidential palace, police firing tear gas, protesters blocking dozens of highways, and cutting the country in half. And that's where Bolivia is sitting right now. A new government promising to fix it, a population completely out of patience, and one enormous decision still hanging over everything. Remember this number, 6.96? You know, the fixed exchange rate? The government is still clinging to it. Almost every economist looking at Bolivia says the same thing. You have to devalue. Admit the Boliviano is worth about 1/3 less. Just say what the street and everyone looking at this already knows. But here's the trap, and it's a nasty one. If you do it, the pain is instant. Everything Bolivia imports gets more expensive overnight. Prices jump, and in a country this angry, that's gasoline on a fire. But if you don't do it, the bleeding never stops. And so far, no Bolivian government has been willing to pull that trigger. So the talks are stuck, the clock is running, and big debt payments are coming due that Bolivia does not obviously have the dollars to make. But what's so infuriating about this country is that it has been here before, multiple times. It's the same collapse over and over. First it was silver, then it was tin, and now it's gas. Every single time one resource lifts the country up, and every single time the money gets spent instead of reinvested. And now there's a fourth resource sitting out there in the desert, the lithium, that's either going to break the cycle or just become the next chapter of it. The only question left is whether Bolivia can survive long enough to reach it. And one last thing before you go. Today's video was sponsored by MyHeritage. If you want to find out where you actually come from, grab your kit for $25 with code OBF25 at the link in the description or by scanning the QR code you see on screen right here. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.